a successful royal spare? There should be a whole class on how to gracefully sort of recognize and find a route that doesn't include the throne, because inevitably in most royal families there will be a spare. But how do you balance this really odd dynamic within a family, whereas you want to make sure all the children know that they are unbelievably valued as members of this family, but when it comes to the larger institution of the royal family, there will be one child who is, well, they will be king or queen. It's sort of a hard dynamic to reach. And we've seen how it can go incredibly south. We have Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Prince Andrew, Sarah Ferguson. We have Prince Laurent in Belgium. We have Infanta Cristina in Spain. We have royals who have gone, let's say, somewhat south. However, we have a couple, I think, great examples recently of royals who have done the sparing well, that have accepted their place within the royal family and have found purpose and guidance outside it, while at the same time respecting and honoring their family. There are two examples we're going to look at today. One is Princess Eugenie, because I read through her Telegraph article, and guys, there were some true gems in there about how she and Princess Beatrice see their roles. And then we also have the interview with Princess Madeleine of Sweden. And so this may be a bit of a longer video, but guys, these royal ladies are showing us how to do sparing well, how to take the role as the spare and really leverage it to the best of your ability to both represent your family and yet also find purpose in the private sector. So we are going to explore this today. But if you haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello guys, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary. So please feel free to hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you back. And if you enjoy discussions like this and want to meet other people who enjoy speaking about royals, because let's be honest, guys, sometimes your friends, if they're not into the whole Harry and Meghan thing, you're like, who do I talk to about this? Nobody knows, nobody gets it. They get sick of me talking about it. We do have an upcoming trip to the south of France, which will close in a month or two here. So if you guys are interested in checking that out, there's a link up above and down below. We're going to Nice, Monaco, Provence. So you guys will want to check that out 150%. If you are interested in going, we have a great crew together. People who have been on multiple trips, people who have not been on trips before. So we have a great group coming together, and we would love to have you join us. And we do have Catherine and William up in Glasgow, Scotland, to christen the HMS Glasgow today, where Catherine is a sponsor of the ship. She actually met with a group of them back in 2022. So we got some gorgeous pictures of Catherine in her Susanna London coat dress. If you guys have any questions or details about that look, I do have a link to the Royal Fashion News Shop My, because I have Royal Fashion News as well, which goes over royal fashion. I have a Shop My attached to that. So if you guys are interested in checking any of that out, there'll be a link up above. And we also have Queen Mary, who has posted to mark International Day for Biological Research. And she says on Instagram, I'm reminded of the incredible intelligence of nature, which blew me away during my visit to the world's largest and most biodiverse savanna, the Cerrado in Brazil. Just 6 months ago, the Cerrado is home to 5% of the planet's animal and plant species, all of which have been adapted to survive extreme environmental conditions, including prolonged periods of drought and frequent wildfires. As patron of the United Nations Environment Program, I have been privileged to witness the important work being undertaken by UNEP, local authorities, and other stakeholders to promote the conservation of biodiversity, the sustainable use of natural resources, and the mitigation of climate change, all for the benefit of the Cerrado and ecosystems worldwide. So that was lovely of Queen Mary to share. And we do also have some sweet pictures of Prince Oscar holding what looks to be a slug or snail there, as him and his mother also celebrate World Day of Biodiversity by going to a park in Stockholm and looking for the various animals to celebrate the wonderful ecosystem there in Sweden. Queen Maxima has also been in South Africa, as she is the United Nations Secretary General's Special Advocate for Financial Health. She has a background in finance before she married into the royal family, although there was a bit of controversy because apparently Her Majesty did not want to be photographed while leaving the plane, leaving many of the local journalists a bit frustrated because they went all the way there to see her, and then she said she didn't want them to take her photograph. So It was portrayed as her being a bit grumpy. So I always find those little tidbits quite fascinating because we get all this about the Brits. We don't always get these little things about the other royals. And that's what's so cool about social media anymore, is that we get so many of these stories that can be, you can translate them because there's like instant translate through X and everything. And I think it's so important because when we look at royals, we see the pomp and the ceremony. And let me tell you right now, I love that stuff. But I also think it's incredibly important to be aware of what the rumblings are behind the scenes. Because let's be honest, it's sort of like you could say democracy. It's only a democracy if you can keep it. Same thing with the monarchy. I always feel like, and I know some don't agree, that the monarchy is in some places is on a precipice, and depending how the main actors behave, it could tip in a good place or a bad place. We definitely see it go in a bad place in Norway. We've had controversies with Princess Martha Louise, her marrying this weird shaman guy who has all sorts of scandals and weird things attached to him. Of course, we have Crown Princess Metamara and her firstborn son, who is not a royal, who has had a lot of legal trouble, like very, very serious legal trouble. This is not related to like finance as what happened in Spain. These are assaults that he is being investigated for, including ones that have happened on his parents' property. So this is the crown prince and princess. On their property, he is alleged to have perpetrated something. So I'm being vague in wording just because of YouTube algorithms and everything. And of course, who can forget Harry and Meghan, all the trouble they've caused? I mean, guys, I'm still going to beat the drum that they need to have their title stripped, places in line in succession. There needs to be some sort of consequence to prevent situations like this in the future. You have Andrew as well, who was never actually convicted of a crime, but paid a huge lump sum to his alleged victim, who has now ended her own life. Like so many crazy, crazy things. So how do you be a good spare? And I thought about that as I was looking at this article by The Telegraph of Princess Eugenie, talking about her charitable efforts surrounding this garden connected to spinal issues because she had scoliosis as a child. She had to have surgery and everything. And as I was reading through this, guys, I found that very enlightening because I know some people don't like Eugenie and Beatrice. I don't get it. I'm going to be quite honest here. But I think she gets it in terms of how do you be a royal spare and do it well? Because there is a way to do it well. We'll have Princess Madeleine too, guys. She has an amazing interview that gives a lot of insight into being a royal. But I wanted to start off with Princess Eugenie. And so it talks about how she's going to the Duke of Cornwall Spinal Treatment Center in Salisbury, as she is a patron there. And she talks about that she pulls up bang on time, and the princess and her private secretary, Libby Horsley, hurry into the garden. No policemen, no publicists, just two young women in summer dresses apologizing profusely that they need to run straight to the loo. So I sort of love this detail because it makes them sound really normal. They probably were stuck in traffic and stuff, and they finally got to the location. Oh, we need to pee, and then we can pee again. I love this. I think it's great. So it says that Princess Eugenie, who's 12th in line to the throne, does not seem to care for curtsying or photo calls, which I would argue is the exact opposite of Harry and Meghan. We know Meghan Markle sends gifts to her friends with HRH on it to lord over them that she is an HRH. But Eugenie doesn't really care. I doubt she makes her friends call her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice or sends notes to them with courtesy of Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice. She just goes, Princess Eugenie. She goes, this is from Eugenie, like, a normal person. And she is patron of Horatio's Garden, which was created at Salisbury District Hospital. And it talks about how she's dressed casually for work more than a garden party, which I think the only big distinction there is that there is no hat or fascinator. Although she requested that this should be an informal visit where she gets the opportunity to meet with as many patients and staff members as possible, she has agreed to sit down with me later in a rare interview to talk about her work with the charity. It's a cause close to her heart. She underwent surgery for scoliosis at the age of 12. Horatio's Garden's mission is to reach every spinal injuries unit in the UK. She says, I'm happy to be on that journey with them. It needs to happen. And I don't think there's anything wrong with spares giving interviews if they are done like this, which is very respectful and recognizing that they have this unique role within the family, that they have this platform where they can help support things that are close to their heart. Because when they go to place, it does bring a little bit of level of publicity. If I went to a local hospital here, nobody would probably care and like did like a real event, nobody would care. But you have this thing as a royal where you are born into this system. So I don't fault them sometimes for using it to their advantage in a way, because how can they not? Like, she can't stop the fact that she's Princess Eugenie. Yes, she can deny the title or whatever, but she was still the granddaughter of the former queen. And she was born the granddaughter of the queen. All this sort of factors in. So it's something that she's had her whole life. I see it very similar to Princess Madeleine. Some people have criticized her for going down a private route and like using the title to help her business. I was like, but how can, like, it's going to help it either way. Like, there's no way to get around it. She is going professionally by Madeleine Bernadotte, but she still is the daughter of the king. She was born the daughter of the king. So how can you use your role successfully? So I wanted to get to some more of how she is working as a spare here. So we skipped some of this article where it's talking about her interacting with patients, not because it's not important, but I want to focus on some of this little bit here. So it says she seems perfectly at ease and yet is into a typical day for the princess. She's taken time off from her full-time job to be here. Visits like this she does on the side. For the past decade, the princess has worked for the gallery Hauser and Worth, where she's a director across their outposts in London, Somerset, and New York, and has built close relationships, including with the American visual artist and writer Ronnie Horn. So, as a non-working royal who is not funded by the taxpayer, the princess, it seems, is carving out a new way of being a royal patron. There is no photo call, no press release. The Telegraph photographer is the only person taking pictures, unless you include Horsley is taking on her phone for social media, which the princess oversees herself. So this is really critical. She's taking time off from her full-time job to be here. So she does not expect this to be her full-time job. She has an actual job. But again, she recognizes, and I'm sure her employer understands, that she has this very unique life and makes allocations for this type of thing. It actually helps them too. The more she's out, the more maybe people hear about the gallery and stuff. So it's sort of a backwards and forwards, but it sounds like most of the time she works full time and then just takes things on as she is able to. And I really like she's carving out a way to be a new royal patron, because what we see with Harry and Meghan, and I just use them as a counterexample because everybody's so familiar with them, is that weirdly Harry and Meghan sort of want to be cosplay royals and like have their charity efforts be their full-time job. I mean, we have heard that Harry's given up having any sense of a full-time job to basically be a cosplay royal. And they have this other thing with like Netflix and Lemonade and everything on the side, but none of that seems to be going super well, especially when it comes to Harry. I mean, he's given up on any aspect of that. But Eugenie is like, I have a career. I'm perfectly fine with my career. What I want to focus on right now is this other place. Okay, guys, you might notice a difference in audio quality because, oops, I forgot to change it to the Shure mic. So I think this is really good. She's grown her career. She's worked in the same gallery for 10 years. So she has a level of expertise. She does share her art on her social media. And then it says, Horsley, an accountant who has been the princess's private secretary for 5 years and is shared with her sister Beatrice, is the only staff member assisting her in her charity work. And unlike most of the royal family, the princess has no team of people in the background curating her public image, no one overseeing her hair and makeup. I don't really think that's necessary to put in there, but I do like that this is somebody her and her sister have hired. They share the costs of her salary. She goes and does different things. So I think that's really cool. So it talks about how she got there. She left her children with her husband, like most working mothers would do, who is a marketing executive. She caught the train at London Waterloo with Horsley. Eugenie and her older sister Beatrice had their police protection removed in 2011, although they pay for their own when necessary. Security expectations are more modest than those of Prince Harry, who a fortnight ago lost the latest round of his legal battle. Horsley is an army reservist at weekends, but insists this doesn't mean she's a self-defense expert. I do like that little tidbit there. I love that they're hiring somebody who's a reservist in the army. I think that's really cool. And it makes sense for them to hire their own security. I'm sure it's private security, not Met security. They get covered by the Met at big events like Tripping the Color and stuff. But for their own events, it does benefit them. And I don't say that Harry and Meghan shouldn't have this either. Hire your own security just for your own peace of mind, because there can be wackos out there. So just have a security guy or two there just as an additional layer of protection. They asked Princess Eugenie privately in the physiotherapy room about sort of her roles and what she does. She says, I think I've got a good balance. I've got an amazing husband and team and projects I'm passionate about. I'd feel uneasy if I wasn't doing my charity work, looking after my family, and doing my job. I love what I do. My mom always taught me that giving back to others is the most important thing in life. Bea and I feel strongly about this. My grandmother's sense of duty was also instilled from a young age. We watched my parents, my granny, and other family members working very hard. So they're taking their family history and everything and including that in this. And I think it's cool. She understands, hey, I'm not going to be working royal, but I still feel passionate about having seen my grandparents and wanting to emulate their life of service. So I serve in my own unique way. Fabulous. So it says, in person, the princess bears a striking resemblance to her grandmother, the late queen. She has a similar posture and those dancing blue eyes. And she seems more real than the other senior royals, a member of our world rather than gilded royalty. As we talk, she helps herself to strawberries from an enormous bowl at the center of the table. Have one before I eat them all, she urges. I would say the same thing. I love strawberries. A friend describes her as a go-getter who makes the best of any situation. She achieved 2 A's and a B in her A levels at Marlborough College, where Catherine went in Wiltshire, and has a degree in English literature and a history of art from Newcastle University. She wanted to be an artist apparently, but she wasn't very good at it. But so she's like, I now like communicating about art, which is great. Take what you're passionate about and use it in a way that benefits you. Yeah, because you might not be an artist, but maybe you're good about talking about it. And maybe an artist isn't good about talking about art. Perfectly fine. She says her favorite weekdays are when she's at home every night and can be in pajamas by 7 p.m. She and Brooksbank are currently binge watching The White Lotus. I get home from work and put the boys in the bath. Don't have to go anywhere else. It's so relaxing. On summer evenings, she'll throw open the back doors and watch her sons play joyfully in the garden. Very sweet. And she does split her time between Portugal and England. So she talks about what's interesting is that initially she felt probably some shame around her scar, but her mom would force her to turn around all the time and go, show people your scar. It's so cool. And so it became something where she was okay with it. She said she was amazing. She'd ask me if she could show it to people. Then she'd turn me around and say, my daughter is superhuman. You got to check out her scar. All of a sudden, it was a badge of honor, a cool thing I had. It trained my brain that it's okay. Scars are cool. It became a positive memory, a part of me that I could do something with in the future. I could help heal other people. I think overall, Andrew and Sarah, although they had their issues for sure, have done a pretty good job raising their kids. So guys, those are some of the highlights from the Eugenie article, which again, I think is actually really good. I know some people for some reason just hate on Beatrice and Eugenie, I think for misplaced reasons, but she has a good head on her shoulders. I think she understands sort of what it means to be a royal and a spare. Yes, she's not the traditional spare in a way, as she was not the daughter of the future king, but at the same time, I think she found a good balance. All right, guys, and now we have Princess Madeleine. I love this interview. There were some super interesting things in it. So I am going to speed it up just slightly, just so we can get through it a bit faster. I think this is an excellent interview. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's about 14 minutes. We'll hear some of it in German, but most of it's actually in English. And I love hearing her talk about her royal family, her role, and also her business.
So ein nettes, lockeres Interview haben wir mit einer Prinzessin wie Madeleine von Schweden noch nie geführt.
A quarter Swedish, a quarter Brazilian, but then German.
Die 42-Jährige spricht mit Frauke Ludowig Deutsch.
So ich verstehe. Oh. Ja, aber ich spreche nicht so.
So I thought it was, you speed it up in German. Wow, that is fast. So she's talking about her ancestry. Her mom is actually part German, part Brazilian, and then there's German on her father's side as well, who is the king. And so she has a lot of a German background, and her husband actually got his citizenship in Germany with the EU. So just interesting things to know here.
Gut, aber ich verstehe ganz viel.
Und sie spricht auch noch über ihr Herzensprojekt.
Len is actually, it means soft in Swedish. And funnily, my family and my closest friends, since I was a child, they always called me Len.
So this is part of a bit of a preview, and we do stop about every 15 seconds for copyright reasons.
Und was uns die Prinzessin noch alles verraten hat. Da ist sie, die schwedische Prinzessin Madeleine, zu Besuch in Bonn. Und wir wollen natürlich erstmal wissen,
So your mother, Queen Sylvia, is German. Do you speak some German words?
So interesting to know her mother and father actually met at the Olympics in Munich.
So, ich verstehe.
Oh.
Ja, aber ich spreche nicht so gut, aber ich verstehe ganz viel.
Aber das klingt so süß. It sounds so sweet.
But no, my mom, she never really spoke German to us. I do feel strong for Germany. And
So Sylvia's role in the Olympics, how she met King Carl Gustaf, is that she was a translator. So she actually knows like 5 or 6 languages, including having to learn Swedish, although she still does have a bit of an accent with her Swedish.
I mean, by blood, I'm more German than I'm Swedish
Really? Why?
because of my father's side too. So,
Yes, of course. Of
so I'm
course.
more German. I think I'm like a quarter Swedish, a quarter Brazilian, but then German.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you have to
There you
come
go.
to Germany.
Which is kind of funny. This happens with a lot of royal families because of the intermarriage and everything. You end up with, yes, a royal she's Swedish, but she's really only a quarter Swedish, even though she's a Swedish princess. Quite fascinating when you think about it. Actually, so her older sister, Crown Princess Victoria, and her brother, Prince Carl Philip, both married Swedes. So their children are more Swedish than hers are now because she married a guy who's part British and part American.
yes,
Very often.
yes, you'll see me around. I promise.
als neue Kosmetikbotschafterin gehören jetzt der Business-Look und Interviews zum neuen Alltag. Noch ungewohnt für die 42-Jährige gibt sie
I have no clue what anybody is saying, but if you know what she's saying in German, feel free to put it in the comments below. I'd love to know.
zu, als wir sie im Steigenberger Eigen Grand Hotel und Spa Petersberg treffen.
But you're a pro at this, so is this tingling too much? Right? I was like hearing myself.
Now you are.
I love it that she thinks about that. That's actually a great thing to think about. She's like, is this jingling too much? Because she's thinking about the other people who are editing it. I was like, oh, is the sound going to be too much? Should I take this off? She's thinking about the presentation, which I think is great.
Entrepreneur. This is a big step for you. How did it come?
You know, as a parent, I've always been very mindful of the products that I'm using on my children. And
So if you don't know, Princess Madeleine is launching a skincare line with Widella, and it is one that can be used by all generations. And she's talking a little bit about her inspiration here. And if you hear her talking about this, compare what you have heard Meghan Markle talking about her business, and you can see just the stark difference. Meghan, there's like nothing concrete in anything she's talking about. Whereas Madeleine says, I noticed this issue. My daughter wanted to use the skincare. I realized the skincare wasn't good for her. She's too young. But how do we address this? Because there is actually a big trend, guys. And I was actually at a YouTube event in California around the holidays where they were talking about how there is this bigger and bigger interest by young people getting into makeup, like really not just like teenagers, but like preteens, younger kids getting interested in skincare because you see it all over TikTok and everything. And so what she's actually addressing is actually a huge issue. And then like even boys are getting into it. I was remembering because one of the women speaking from Sephora had a son and her son was interested in going into Sephora and finding skincare items. Very interesting. So she is very much on the cusp of what is driving currently, you could say, some of the beauty market.
And that has kind of, the more the kids grew up, I felt there was really something that was missing. There was something missing in the market for my children who all of a sudden became, my oldest daughter is now a teen. And being this mindful mom of.
What I love that she's addressing here is that she's very aware. She's talking about being a mom. I noticed what my daughter was into. She's a preteen now. She's going to be a teenager soon. Like, how do I address this issue? Because I see it, I see the interest, and I noticed that there is a void in the market. And that's 100% how you look at a business. So when it comes to me and this channel, I was looking at this channel and envisioning something where it's like I could talk about everything related to royals, which I don't always get to in a way, but I wanted to talk about beauty and jewelry and talking about some of the deeper issues regarding royals I didn't always see on the other channels. And so I wanted to create what I thought addressed, let's say, a lack of a presence in the space. And of course, you can talk about the same things other people talk about and be very successful. Of course, there are other channels that are competitors to mine. That is reality of life. But I think Madeleine's so smart here because she's like, I noticed this void in the market. And if you think about Meghan and her business, what void is there in the market for jam? Jam is literally everywhere. There's nothing in the market that Meghan is filling in terms of a void. What Meghan should have done is says, I'm going to create the best hostessing company out there. There's not really a hostess company. And so how do you make sure you can be the hostess with the mostest all the time? That's sort of the angle Meghan should have gone with. But like, I don't have it right here, but her stupid idea of like a keepsake thing for the jam was just like dumb. Like you can't even use it for any, like it's complete waste. And Meghan just doesn't seem to understand how businesses actually work. And Madeleine, again, I think being very smart here.
Trying always to use, baby products and safe skincare. All of a sudden, there was products that was missing for her, and I was really struggling to find something that I felt that I could trust and that she also would like to have.
So again, very smart. This is how you look at a business, is like, how do I address this? And she has the money and the resources to make this thing a reality. And this is what you see in Shark Tank. If you watch it enough, what really piques the interest of the sharks is if there's a product that nobody else has. You have something very unique. You're addressing an issue in the marketplace, and nobody else is doing that as fast as you are. They love that kind of stuff. If you come to them with jam, like people have come to them with something very similar, like, well, how does this make you different than your 900 competitors out there? And again, Meghan Markle, I think her business is struggling in part because, I mean, she's not selling anything. Number one, her Instagram feed is really terribly run. Number two, but number three is that you can get her the same thing anywhere. What makes her stuff better than what you can get anywhere else? And she has not answered that question.
Kind of where this idea of the skincare line came about.
Ihre Kinder Nicolas 9 und Adrian.
And there's her kids. So that's Nicholas, her son. Princess Adrian is her youngest, and Princess Leonor is her firstborn. And this is her husband, Chris O'Neill.
7, aber vor allem die 11-jährige Leonore sind der Grund, dass sie jetzt den Job selbst in die Hand nimmt.
I kind of quickly realized that I need a great partner.
So has this idea, but she doesn't know totally how to execute it. In addition to that, is she doesn't have the reach. And so instead of creating a whole company herself, she partnered with somebody very smart.
A good company that's already established and has the trust and has the knowledge. And so when we've always used Veleda in our family. And I always felt that company, they have such a high quality in their ingredients and how they produce the products. So I felt this is a company I trust.
Very smart. Again, I've used this product. I like the brand and I want to use it to help me fund my business. Very, very smart thing to do.
So that's kind of how when we reached out to Veleda and Tina MinLen, we had a good conversation. And she very quickly understood my vision. And we also talked about this big trend that's going on. That's kind of very concerning, I would say, that children are, choosing products that's really not for them, but they're being so influenced by social media and TikTok. And so
again, I feel like Madeleine is so honed in here. And I just want to highlight this and congratulate her. Like she found an issue, she wanted to address it. And that is a big part of business. Yes, you can establish another, let's say, mobile phone company, but you're going to have to compete with Apple. And Samsung and Google and whoever else is making phones. I don't know. How do you do that? How do you make a competitor? What void do you see in the marketplace? And for something like tech, that's sometimes really difficult because you have to create the whole technology system. But actually, when it comes to like skincare and makeup, there's actually so much overhead you can make. It's actually a really smart business to get into. So I've been watching sort of videos that detail the downfall of some of the makeup people. I found that rather interesting.
They go to these stores and they grab all these products, but they're not really tailored for them. And Tina, she also, recognized that trend. And we say, okay, what can we do here? What can we create to fill the gap and develop skincare that's responsible for children to use?
Again, very smart. Well, how can we develop skincare products that are appropriate for children to use? I can use grandparents, great-grandparents, everybody, every generation can use. And that, again, I don't know any other product that does that. So pretty smart.
Heard that is a nickname of Madeleine, is it right?
Yes, it's actually true. So Len is actually, it means soft in Swedish. Mm-hmm. And funnily, my family and my closest friends, since I was a child, they always called me Len.
So I love that little tidbit that we haven't heard before. My family, my closest friends call me Lynn. So she included it in the name, which makes sense. Again, Meghan Markle's name as ever, and even American Riviera Orchard really had no connection to her whatsoever. Like I recommended, and I did sort of a whole deep dive on it. She should have named it after some sort of California flower because her nickname as a child was Flower. So she could have done sort of a bunch of things together and kind of created it around this flower. But of course, did she do that now?
So it's a play on with that. And since, this project is very personal to me, so I felt that I really wanted to have, a personal touch that resonates with me and the brand. And so
I like that. I want a personal touch. It is personal to me. The brand is personal, and it shows a connection because, and again, I just do these comparisons just because it makes so much sense. When it comes to Meghan Markle, as ever sort of means nothing. And you can tell to her, it means nothing because she started off the year signing off everything with as ever, as ever, as ever, Meghan. And then what has she done since? She's totally dropped it. Doesn't use it anymore. She used it once, maybe in, like, she might have used it for her anniversary thing or whatever, but she's not really using it much anymore. And it's like, why did you stop using it? The whole point of the brand is to show that you have a connection. You were just doing the phrase because it made sense in the moment because that was the only brand name you can get. Whereas Madeleine put some thought into it and it shows.
that was a fun fitting.
So for me, it's a very modern thing that a woman like you, so you are beautiful, you are a celebrity, many people knows you, but it's a very modern thinking that you are a member of a royal family.
The phrasing of the question, because she's not really a celebrity, she's royalty. It's different than being a celebrity.
That you're a mother and now you're a businesswoman.
Yeah.
But there are some people, they say in the Swedish press I read, oh, that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
What is your thinking about?
So she kind of, I don't think asks the question as well as she could have, but there is a bit of a language barrier there. She knows English fairly well, but sometimes the nuances of language are difficult to come through sometimes. So I think though this is a very good question because it's like you have your critics. Why are they wrong? Great question.
About that.
I can understand their concerns and the critics that they have. But a couple of years ago, there was a big decision that they're slimming down and focusing on more my sister, the crown princess, and I think that's many monarchies.
So she's talking about what everybody's doing is streamlining, focusing on the main line of the family, and so she was told, and the whole family was told, her children were stripped of their HRH status, and I mean, they still have their titles of prince and princess, but they're no longer a his or her royal highness, which kind of denotes who you have to curtsy to and stuff like that. But I mean, it's what everybody's doing, and she recognizes it, and she's not, let's say, necessarily upset by it.
In Europe are doing that. And with that, they slimmed it down and they said, okay, we're focusing more on the crown prince family. So me and my brother, it kind of gave us an opportunity to do other things.
I like that. Gave us an opportunity to do other things because yes, we see this sort of coming. Everybody else is doing it. And I mean, in some ways, yeah, you're there. You're like, oh man, I enjoy doing my job. But now it's like, oh, I get to do something else. And I think that's great.
So nowadays, I don't have that many official duties anymore, or I should not do that many. And they say, okay, now feel free to do other things. Mm-hmm. So then I said, okay, I'll do it.
I like that enthusiasm. Okay, I'll do it. It's all about looking at the bright side of things, whereas you see Harry and Meghan, like they were denied doing royal duties and all they're doing is pouting and complaining about it like 5 years later. It's like, move on.
To work together with the husband. So I think that's not every time easy.
It's working well. So far, so good. We've been, we started this almost 2 years ago now.
So she's actually working with her husband on this. He's a finance guy. And so they have their different tracks, which is great. And she's been working on this for 2 years. This shows, again, intention, thought planning, and everything. Meghan looks like everything is slapped together with as ever. And she didn't really give that much thought to anything. It's just kind of a vague idea because a Netflix person's like, oh, you like to host and make things look pretty. Oh, we can make a show and a brand out of that. Not a great idea. But I love that Madeleine and her husband are working together, each bringing their strengths to the business.
And I think it worked well because I've taken, one side of more the creative side and my vision and what I was missing as a mom for my kids. So I knew exactly what I wanted in these products.
So there's a great partnership here. And I like this because I don't feel any partnership with Harry and Meghan. She's doing her own thing and he's letting her do it. And then he's just kind of like, I'm there to be the handbag as needed, to drag to concerts, so she can have something to post about on social media. And when it comes to Madeleine and Chris, they have a business together. They each bring their strengths to it. So you feel the partnership. And so you can kind of feel the partnership in the marriage too, because like if you have this here, I imagine it reflects in their marriage too, where they each bring their strengths and weaknesses and they can help each other. And that's how you develop a good partnership.
And Chris, on his side, he comes from the finance world, so it was perfect for him to deal with, with the budgeting, the legal side of it, and how to create a company and how to structure it. And so we had two different roles, and
I like that. Very, very smart.
think
That's the secret.
that's the secret.
Für Chris
I think that's probably true. Probably having a bit of a separation there is probably the best way to go, because if you think about it, sometimes if you both kind of do the same things, if you're too similar, that can cause friction too. So there they are with Princess
und
Leonor.
nun zieht Prinzessin Madeleine 2010 in die USA. Seit 9 Monaten sind sie zurück in Schweden.
Last year you came from the US. You lived in the US for many years. So how was it for you to came back to Sweden?
I was a little bummed because I thought it would have been really cool to interview Madeleine in the States if she still lived here.
It would be a very special place for us. But both Chris and I, we have our families in Europe. So we felt after a while that it's time to move back home close.
I like that. We wanted to move closer to our family. They're all here. Again, very sound judgment. And they lived in Florida for about, let's say 6, 7, 8 years. And so they were actually living in Florida for the vast majority of Princess Adrian's life. So I'm curious how her kids are adjusting somewhat. I'm sure they know Swedish, but now they're definitely going to obviously be fluent in Swedish. And my understanding, at least somewhat culturally, because the country is so small, there's a lot of things that come together for, like, it's very homogenous in some ways. And so it's important to integrate young, is my understanding, at least when it comes to Sweden. So glad her children are able to do that and able to be back in their native Sweden, although I'm sure they miss aspects of Florida too. Although she has said that they're so excited that they can go out more because it was so stinking hot in Florida that sometimes you had to just stay inside.
Closer to our families. And it was lovely. I've been abroad now for 15 years, so it was about time to move back home.
And I can imagine you're a very, very close family together with your siblings and
all the
and
little
your
cousins, they're
parents.
the same age.
And it's a
so
big family.
It's a big family
Yeah.
now, yes.
So what?
So they have a big family. So her sister has 2 children. Her brother now has 4 children. And so she has 3. So quite a few cousins. They're all very similar in ages. And so it's great that they're able to grow together, I think, and be able to support each other, I think is an awesome thing.
What are your plans for the future with your company and private, for example?
Well, right now I'm very much focused on MinLen and to further develop it, and we have lots of other ideas in the pipelines too.
So I look forward to seeing it in the future. I think it's going to be out in September. So I will be in Europe in September, not like very early October, but it's only going to be available in Sweden, Switzerland, I think, and Germany. So may have to get creative there because I would like to order some myself.
So I'm focusing on that, and then we've been now a year-ish at home with the children, and they are happy. But I think it's important for us parents to also be very present. It's a big change of moving.
Yeah.
I mean, even though they feel it's almost like moving home, but still it's changing schools and things. So
yeah, lots of change going on there for sure. Huge move, but I like that there's an aspect there, importance on family.
right now I'm focusing on them and on MinLen.
You're such a beautiful woman. Could you give other women tips? So what is your beauty routine? What do you do for your beauty?
I don't know. Well, that's very kind.
I mean, it's. I would ask her that question because she's gorgeous, Princess Madeleine, especially with those bright blue eyes. Gorgeous.
For beauty routines, I think that's a difficult question.
Is it?
I don't know.
So
I mean, I
can't
think
imagine
it's
you do
more.
nothing.
No, but I think really what's important is that you feel good in your own
Yeah.
skin.
Oh, she did take some of her bracelets off. Yeah, and she's right. Feeling good in your own skin, and I think there's some aspects where, celebrities say, "Oh, I only do 1, 2, or 2 things, and I look like this," and it's totally wrong. And it's also somewhat personal because we all have our different skin types and stuff like that. So I think I think it's almost good not to be too specific.
I think beauty is all about, confidence and kindness and, respecting your body, and then you will also feel good in your body. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for, what I can do with MinLen,
I think that's pretty fair. I think that's a good way to go about it.
is to help children feel comfortable in their own skin. And I do believe that if you start with taking care of yourself, I think you give that, you create good habits, good
Very, very sound advice.
bathroom routines, you respect your body, you're kind. I think that that come through, and you build that self-confidence.
Yeah, but it's so important to give self-confidence to the children.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters, and yeah, it's
Giving self-confidence to kids, of course, it's parenting, it's helping them understand things and how to take care of themselves. And so I think that's, again, fairly good advice there. And trying to, like, she's focused again, she turns it to her business, which is smart. And I think that's, again, shows some good PR there too, and some good media training on Madeleine's part.
it's a topic sometimes every day to tell them, hey, you're great like you are, and that's so important as a mother. And I think a good beauty line helps to feel good in your skin.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of hit and miss because you don't want to overdo the beauty to such an extent that you sort of lose yourself in the process. Because I think, at least in the States, we've seen a lot of ladies who have taken some of their beauty routines, like, let's say, maybe a bit too far.
Right, I think so too, and especially today, even more so, it's important to really feel that you're beautiful inside. With I can see the kids, how they look at their phones and on social media, and it's just filters, and they think that's all these women out there, they look like that, but it's actually filtered. So I think it's important to.
That's actually really, really, I love that, because it is so true when it comes to celebrities. I mean, even, I don't want to say always paparazzi pictures, but any pictures on the red carpet, they're enhanced, they're put through filters, and then people actually filter themselves through plastic surgery. And so at least some of the models you see, like, they didn't come out looking like that. They at least paid for a part of their looks. I think of definitely somebody who's been talked a lot about this is Bella Hadid, how she had a lot of work done to her face to sort of get the effect that she has now, that she's become a model. You also have just like that. I was seeing a picture today of her on Instagram, and her hip bones stick out really prominently sometimes. I'm like, that is way too skinny. If your hip bones are sticking out like that, they're not meant to do that. They're not meant to do that. So I think it's good to have, for especially young people, to have a good understanding of what real people look like. They're not the people you see on Instagram. Of course, lots of filters, lots of primping and making sure everything looks perfect, but let's be real as well.
What do you think when you see those over-filtered young people?
It's kind of sad. I mean, they should be happy with who they are, but I think it's important to talk about it, and also with this trend that we are seeing with all these children buying into the skincare line, and
that's comes from a lot of social media and everything, a lot of them being pushed, and unfortunately a lot of beauty influencers really influence really, really young kids. It's quite scary.
I think, instead of saying it's not good for them, like, let's embrace it and see, like, okay, but let's create products that are good for them. So they don't go and buy, off-the-shelf products that is not made for their skin. So I think it's a conversation with the children is very good. And that's really was one core element with MinLen, that I really wanted to take the opportunity to talk to parents and children so they are mindful of this.
Again, I think she has a good head on her shoulders and very good understanding of her business and where it fits in with the market. I don't think Meghan understands it at all, to be quite honest, guys. I think Meghan has no idea, zero clue where her products fit in the market, which, again, to me, like, I think she'll fail because of that.
That it's so important that they get products that's suitable for them, and not something that's has retinols in it and it really will harm their skin.
How can I imagine a normal day in your life?
A normal day. Well, I mean, it's very different, each day.
I'm sure she's like, oh, what is a normal day? But I do like how they're switching between the business and her personally, because there is an interest in her personally, because she is a princess. What does she do all day? Don't know.
I try every day, to start the day off with driving my kids to school. I think it's a nice way to spend time with them. And when they're in school, it's a lot of emails and calls and Zooms.
She works for her mother's organization, the World Childhood Foundation, which addresses and tries to protect children online. So it kind of actually, even this business goes along with the work that she's always done with her mother, although that's more about exploitation. This is obviously about skincare, something you could argue is more frivolous, but she has a little role that she does. It's not huge, but she has found contentment in it.
Thank God to Zoom with the team and with Veleda, who sits in Switzerland, and so it has worked out very well. And my favorite part of the afternoon or of the day, I must say, is to.
So sorry, just got to pause again for copyright reasons. But I enjoyed listening to her. I think it's fun.
So my daughters, they're very much into riding these days. So I love that. I spend a lot of time with them in the stable. So
years ago,
I feel like that's a very royal thing to be obsessed with riding. But Princess Madeleine was really into riding, and she technically lives at, I think it's like the palace stables or something, which is a very nice location. Very nice. But that's technically where she lives.
I met your mother with her childhood foundation. It's a very good foundation. And it was a nice day in Würzburg. So do you have a German side? Because your mother is German.
I think
I really like this question because it's sort of, I just love her trying to get, because she's German, the woman. And so she's trying to see, well, how are you German? Because your mom's German. Like, share your German side with us.
I do. I mean, my mom, she's very organized. And I think definitely that has to be a German side. And I tend to be quite organized too. And, I like to think to be strict and organized. So that's definitely something I got from my mom.
When you ask people what is...
I love that. I'm very organized. So that seems very German. So I'm nice. Well, I just think that's very sweet.
German, then you get this answer.
I think so, right?
Organized.
Yeah, that's me in my family. My siblings, not so much, but I got that, yeah.
What did your family say when you said, so I will have my own company, I will be my own entrepreneur, together with your husband, we have to say, together with...
I love that, again, that they're doing it together. I think it's very cute and not doing like the same thing. Again, I don't, not a fan of Harry and Meghan, but I see how they're doing things and I see the issues. Whereas this, they are taking different roles and it seems to work really well.
With Chris. So what did your family say? Your parents, your children? Did they have to test everything?
Oh, yes. No, but they were excited. They all supported me. And, my brother, he's also done his business now for 10 years designing. So I think, we have that a little bit in our family already.
So her brother has done his own thing too, although his brother is included in a lot more of the royal things as well. So she has this side and she does royal events on occasion, but it's not really a big thing. She tries to live mostly a private, normal life.
But they were all very supportive, and the children were very involved. They thought it was a lot of fun, and so it was really fun to create this brand together with Chris, with the children, because
I like it that is sort of a family thing. It's family thing for them all together.
They are the perfect target group. Our kids, they're now 11, 9, and 7. So, I sat them down and I said, okay, this is the task. What do you like? What don't you like? And of course, children, they're very honest, which is great.
We cross fingers, Princess Madeleine.
I don't think they'll need to cross it. I think it'll do very well. Again, this hits a huge cornerstone in the market. Like, my only thought was that some of the look of the brand so far maybe skews a little bit more on the childish spectrum, but they're trying to hit children. So I sort of understand that, but we shall see.
But I'm sure it will be a big success.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Every time again. Thank you that you are here in Bonn.
Yeah. Beautiful
and
Bonn.
Greetings to your German mother.
I will absolutely say hello to her.
Okay. That got a little weird towards the end. Again, I think there's a language barrier situation taking into effect there. But Madeleine shows, again, how do you be a productive royal? I had this vision. I had this idea. My family has sort of given me permission to go and do something else. So I'm going to do something else. It's perfect reasoning. I love it. It's great. And it shows how you can be a spare. And yes, you can't avoid the fact that you're the daughter of the king. She can't avoid that. She was born the daughter of the king. Her father was king when he married her mother. So she will always have a high profile. She can't avoid that. But she's like, hey, I have this idea. My husband's, he's good at finance. We can connect with this other skincare company. They can help me develop the line because they have so much more. So she doesn't have to do sometimes as much of the heavy lifting because she partnered with somebody who knows a lot of stuff, who has a good reputation in the industry. That way she doesn't have to try to create one herself. And I think that's great. And I think she'll be really successful. And then you pair that with Princess Eugenie, who's like, yeah, I have this high profile. I want to use it to help people as I can. But at the same time, I'm not going to go too far with it either. It's all so smart, so amazing, so incredibly good, guys. I think these royal ladies are showing us how to be really productive spares, how to do spare well. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of these two lovely spares. I'd love to get your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again soon. Bye.